a few words and it draws you a picture of what, then you have been influenced by my words, you know.
Exactly.
There it is, you see it, you know. So today I'm influenced by a lot of the country music and a lot of the country writers, you know. I love lyrics and I love
What
music.
do you think about Johnny Cash?
Johnny Cash, Johnny Cash came along when I was not in country music. What I think about him now is that he was how can I say this? He was a great interpreter of words.
Okay.
He could interpret words beautifully. He was like the difference between Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
Tony Bennett was a singer. Frank Sinatra was one of the greatest
Crooner.
interpreters. Yes, he was just woo, you know. He could say these words and you could feel them inside, you know. Where Tony Bennett, he could say those words and you could hear them inside. They would ring, you know. So it was a big difference between the two. And I've learned to distinguish the difference between, like myself, I'm no great singer. You know, I'm not a Luther Vandross or, well, you know, yeah, that's right, you know. But I can interpret the words where you will feel them in here. You know, you'll be able to say, oh, I feel that music. I feel what he's saying. Well, of course, it is all interpretation. Once again, the words are painting a picture that you can see, you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Alors, how did you been your first CD
Yes.
in your career?
My first CD, that was very interesting. That was an interesting time. With being chosen by Mr. Jim O'Neill to join Rooster Blues family. Jim O'Neill is a very wise man. And I'll tell you why I say that. He's extremely wise. He is a visionary. Jim O'Neill saw me working in a club. And he liked what he saw and he liked what he heard. He offered me a contract. I accepted. And he gave me a recording date. And Jim O'Neill knew nothing about me. When I say he knew nothing, I'm not saying that he could not go online and find out something about me, you know, like my past, who my half-brother was, and so forth and so on, and know that I've been around for 100 years. 10 years, actually, not 100.
Yeah.
But he offered me this contract, and when we went to record, no one knew what I was going to do. Not the musicians, not Jim, no one in the studio. When we arrived at the studio, I picked the musicians to play, and we went all the way to Salina from Kansas City, Kansas, to Salina, Kansas, which is roughly a little over 100 miles. We drove. We got there and sat up everything, and Jim looked at me, and he said, okay, you ready? I said, yeah. He said, okay, go ahead. He didn't have a clue to what I was going to do.
Okay.
And when I sat down, neither did the musicians. So when I sat down in the studio here, and the musicians were all right in the general area, they didn't have a clue to what I was about to do. So I had to tell each one of them what I wanted them to do for the songs that I had written. And Jim was standing there. This is why I say this man is wiser than you could even imagine, you know, because his choice in choosing me allowed him to see just how much insight he had into who he was choosing. Because before the session was over, they were outdone at water to wine. They had no idea that these songs were coming up. When I would call into the recording when I would call into the what do I call it? Where they were all sitting and tell them the name of the next song.
Yeah.
That's all they knew. And they just would cut on the machine and sit there and wait to hear this song. So now I am singing, right?
Yeah.
I am playing guitar.
Exactly.
Right? I am sitting down like this. They are all there. And while I am singing this song, I am telling each one of them what to do while I am recording.
Okay.
So I'm singing, I'll say solo.
Okay.
I strike up and start back singing. I said, boom, bring up the drums, turn up the piano. And what they would do is, after I would finish recording, they would go in and take all that talking out.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And there was the recording.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And the phone.
Yes, it was. It was one of the most tremendous experiences for myself
Yeah.
to record, to direct, to arrange everything vocally while I'm singing the song, and I didn't have to stand up and go over the song again. It was, I'm singing, I start off, I said, okay, this is the way we'll start it. We'll do 2 lines, and I'll start singing, da-da-da, and you all will know when to do such and such, and I'll say, okay, solo on that point, and we just keep playing, and when it ended, they take out the talking, and it was recorded.
Oh.
And this is, and Water the Wine got critical acclaim. It was a magnificent way for Jim O'Neill to put this together without any say-so. Jim was one of the best producers I've ever seen in my life, because the way he produced this was by sitting there knowing, and this is why I say he had so much insight. How did he know that I could do this?
Yeah.
How did he see this? What dream did he have?
Voilà.
Yeah, voila, yeah.
Alors, moi, I want to know, c'est the connection on Curtis Mayfield, because it's the same family.
Yes, no. Now, my connection with Curtis Mayfield, and the reason you want to know the connection is because of the last name.
Okay.
Right? Now, I can tell you the connection, Curtis Mayfield, but you can't film it.
D'accord.
I can tell you, but I can't film it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And I tell you why. Because Curtis was very personal.
Okay.
He took his family
After.
life. Yes.
After the interview.
There you go.
Okay, no problem.
It's a good man. Yes, yes.
Bon.
Okay.
For you,
Yes.
which have been your best memory on stage?
Wow.
Ah.
Yeah, that's...
Ah.
Wow, my best memory on stage. I would have to say one of my best. I don't know my best, but I can tell you the one memory on stage that really sticks with me was I think, if I'm not mistaken, was almost my last performance on stage with Betty Everett. Because I was so close to Betty, I was her orchestra leader. I was the man, but I was more than that, because I also sung with her. And there was a song that her and Jerry Butler sung, which was Let It Be Me. God bless the day I found you. And we closed the Chicago Blues Festival with that song. Yeah. And it was played all over the world. So, for me, that was one of my greatest performances, to sing for the entire world, hereabouts.
Yeah.
To close the Chicago Blues Festival, and to sing with Betty Everett, for her to give me that opportunity, I thought was probably one of the biggest events that could happen to my life, other than, you know, coming to Paris and going to Monte Carlo and playing the Regal and the Apollo. This, I thought, was one of my greatest events. Yes.
Okay. Alors, in the other thing, I do the Great Report video on Mr. Jimi Hendrix. Did you meet him?
No.
No?
I never got the opportunity to meet Jimi Hendrix.
And Chicago?
No, I tell you. See, remember during that era, I was a hippie too, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, I had the bands across the head and the paint on the I was a hippie, and I was doing what all hippies did back then. And I also was traveling. Remember now, it was like let's quit laughing. I remember also, this is why I never got to perform with Curtis also, because I was into music. So therefore, a lot of times, most of the time, I was gone. Remember, I'm working with big stars, considering, and so when Curtis would come in town, I'd be gone. When I would come in town, he was gone.
Okay.
You know, so there were very
different.
Different. Yes, we would always run by each other. Like, of course, I would open the shows for Gladys Knight and be on the show with James Brown, David Ruffin. Oh, I did so much stuff, but I never connected with Curtis or the Impressions. You know. We were always on the move, but I was always in contact with him. Meaning when he had his accident, I was living in California and I could call New York and talk with the nurse, and she would go talk to him. And he couldn't talk, but he could move his head, and she would come back and tell me the things he would do. And when he got out to hospital, I would meet him in California, and we would talk while he was, you know, quadriplegic. And then right before he died, I called his house in Atlanta, in Dinwiddie, and I would talk to him on the phone. You know, we were always in contact with each other from the time I was at the age of realization, which was between 10 and 11 years old. We have been in constant contact with each other up until the time he passed. You know? Yes.
And what do you think about of Jimmy for the evolution for the black music, because for the guitar it's different, so for the blues?
I tell you, Jimmy was like all prospectors. He was an innovator. He was a man of search. He denied nothing. Meaning, when we were going before Jimi Hendrix, way before Jimi Hendrix, we could go on stage and hear something squeal and throw our hands up. It was noise. To Jimi Hendrix, it was music. You know, we could hit the guitar and hear it go, "Ah!" and it was noise. To Jimi Hendrix, he made it music. He took what we considered bad and made it good. He was an entrepreneur. He was a music entrepreneur, because anything now, you can go and buy a pedal to make all of the sounds that we would frown upon back in the days, you know. And what he did for music was expanded the possibilities of what you could do with a particular instrument. Meaning, no matter how fast, you could only become so fast in playing any instrument. After that, you need somewhere else to go. And he opened up thousands of doors. Once he opened up the first, once you saw Jimi Hendrix on stage, I forgot which concert it was, but when he turned around and took his guitar and put it in front of that amplifier,